What is up, my valid peeps? Cadian here. This is part 2 to my second video on Kamen Riders with Pokemon types. Go check out the first part along with the first video on this if you haven't already, and let's get back to the type assignments. Best match! These first of all forms are quick. The rabbit half is tied to the normal type, and the tank half is tied to the steel type, making Rabbit Tank Sparkling normal steel type, Rabbit Rabbit pure normal type, and Tank Tank pure steel type. Rabbit Tank Hazard though has neither type, being pure dark type due to being an out of control berserker. Now for Build's final forms, Genius is normal psychic type. It's a regular guy with genius intellect and access to the powers of 5 dozen bottles, so I feel this combo is the best one. As for Rabbit Dragon and Cross Build, normal is tied to the rabbit half, and it should be well obvious what type it is tied to the dragon half. Wake Up Burning for Cross! His base form, Cross Charge, and Great Cross all share the dragon fighting type. Dragon because of the very prominent dragon motif, and fighting because Cross is a very skilled fighter in hand-to-hand combat. His two final forms though swap out the fighting type, each for a different type. Cross Magma gets the fire type because of the magma motif, and Cross Evol gets the psychic type because it wields the incredible cosmic power of Evol. Last for Heisei is Zi-O, and all but one of his significant forms retain the base form's steel psychic typing. Steel because of the watch motif and metallic armor, and psychic because of the time motifs, time related powers, and past rider powers, though in the case of Decade armor it's because it's based on Decade. As for Omagio, he's the Demon King of Time, so while still retaining the steel type for aforementioned obvious reasons, he's now dark type instead of psychic. All of Gates' forms seen here share the exact same type, fighting psychic. Fighting because Gates is a freedom fighter against the future Omagio, and psychic because he's from the future and once again the time motif. Finally, we're on to the next and current era of rider, Reiwa. Progressing with Zero-One, there's a lot of forms of his to cover. For 001, Shining Hopper, Shining Assault Hopper, 02 and Realizing Hopper, they all share Rising Hopper's bug electric typing. It's still based on the Grasshopper, and they all have futuristic designs. Metal Cluster Hopper is slightly different though. While still retaining the bug type for obvious reasons, electric is replaced with steel because it's covered in metal armor and it's got metal in the name. Nothing else fits better. Now for the other two of Zero-One's major forms, Arc 1 and Hell Rising Hopper. While instead retaining the electric type for the futuristic designs, their primary type is now dark. Arc 1 because it has the power of the Arc, and Hell Rising Hopper because it's an uncontrollable and very painful berserker form. Shot rising into Vulcan, all of his major forms share the normal steel typing. Normal because they all have a wolf motif, and steel because the transformation involves a bullet, which is something made of metal. Not to mention all of the form's armor does look rather metallic. Unsheathing the sword of Saber, he has even more forms to cover than Zero-One himself. All of his forms with Kainken Rekka have the primary fire type because they all wield the Holy Sword of Fire, though the secondary types vary. Crimson Dragon, Emotional Dragon, Elemental Primitive Dragon, Almighty Saber, and Ultimate Bahamut have the secondary dragon type because of their overt dragon motif. There are 3 forms with Rekka that do have a different secondary type. Dragon Ignite, while still dragon themed, has a front and center knight motif, so steel works best. Primitive Dragon is once again still dragon themed, but it's a wild and uncontrollable berserker, so it gets the dark type. Superhero Senki has no dragon motif in the design, and is a combination with Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger's Zenkaiser, a hero who fights for justice, so fighting type is best as secondary here. For Saber's 3 forms with the Cross Saber, they all have the psychic type as their primary, being a sword with a space motif and the power of 10 other elemental swords. Cross Saber's main form is repainted from base Brave Dragon, so it gets Dragon as its secondary. Crimson Saber is repainted from Crimson Dragon, the Fire Wonder combo, so its secondary type is Fire. Featuring Saber has no Kainken Rekka counterpart, but I feel with its focus on the friendship between the main 3 riders, Fairy gets to be featuring Saber's secondary type. Blades wields Suiseiken Nagare, the holy sword of water, so all of his forms are primarily water type, except for the final form. Lion Senki is secondary normal type because of its lion basis. Fantastic Lion is secondary fairy type because of the added mythical creature and fairy tale. And King Lion Daisenki is secondary steel type because of the metallic armor on the form's body. Tatagami Hyoju Senki though is pure ice type because all of its usually water attacks are now frozen into ice attacks, with no need for a nanotype. Buddying up with the most recently finished Rider series, Revice. Both the Barad Rex genomes and Volcano Rex are primary dragon type because of the Tyrannosaurus Rex motif. Though both Barad Rexes are secondary ice type because of the ice powers, and Volcano Rex is secondary fire type because of the fire powers. Drac Revice is the only major form of the main duo that completely ditches the dragon type, being pure dark type due to being Vice coloured and, at least initially, being controlled by Vice. Onto their other three forms, the perfect fusion of the two, Revice is secondarily electric type due to the form's electrical powers. The final form, Ultimate Revice, is simply Rex genome with added armor on top, so they share the same typings as it. This is a bit of a last minute addition really, but a few days after initially finishing this video, Revice Shin from the Revice final stage was revealed. This looks to be Thundergale minus the electrical powers while still retaining the Tyrannosaurus Rex motif. There isn't enough room to have the common dragon type, Revice fighting type and Vice's dark type altogether, so just the dragon type on its own is fine for the newest revealed form from this video. In addition to two primary riders, Revice has two secondary riders, Live and Evil. These two are two sides of the same coin, one good and one, well, evil, no pun intended. So Live is primary fighting type and Evil is pure dark type. In terms of the former's power-ups, Holy Live is secondary fairy type because of the angel motif, and since Ability Live is a fusion of the two riders, it's secondary dark type. Now that would be it for Revice, but while I was in the process of writing this script, Live and Evil's V-Cinema forms, Live Marvelous and Evil Marvelous respectively, were revealed. Not much is known about these forms right now, so since they're largely repaints of base Live and Evil, they retain their base forms typings. Now for the current series of Rider, Geats. While I'm not currently watching it, I'm still including it for the sake of inclusion. Base Geats is normal and steel type, the former because he's based on the Fox, and the latter since both the Magnum and Boost halves link well with said type. Tycoon is pure normal type for now since he currently lacks any big raise buckles. Final section of the video, a couple rider series not constrained to a particular era. For Amazons we got Amazon New Omega and Amazon Alpha. Both are still based on Amazon so they still have primary fighting type, though New Omega gets secondary steel type because of the metallic armor present, and Alpha shares base Omega's secondary dark type, again due to the savage nature of Amazon's riders. Last two for the video, both from the upcoming Amazon Prime exclusive series, Kamen Rider Black Sun. Not sponsored by the way. Black Sun and Shadow Moon both get primary bug type due to their insectoid appearances, though Black Sun retains his base's secondary fighting type, and Shadow Moon gets the secondary dark type to mirror him. So that's what Pokemon typings I'd give to the primary riders' power-up forms and the secondary riders and their power-up forms. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did making it. A potential part 3 to this would go into non-primary or secondary riders, including tertiary, quaternary, extra and movie riders, and maybe some movie forms that I didn't cover this time. So do comment down below if you want to see that. Also, if you got any different rider typings from this video in mind, tell me down there too. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment your thoughts, subscribe and share it, and I'll see all you valid peeps next time.